Aloha, my name is Sheryl Matsuoka, the Executive Director of the Hawaii Restaurant Association and the Hawaii Restaurant Association Educational Foundation. Mahalo for joining me here today on Restaurants of Hawaii on the ThinkTech platform. Today, restaurants and businesses, you're going to learn how to turn your scrap into cash. Aloha. I would like to welcome my two guests to ThinkTech Hawaii, Restaurants Hawaii here. I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So first, Alan, could you please tell the members a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Lenox Metals?
Certainly. Aloha to all. My name is Alan Hornstein. I am the proud owner and operator of Lenox Metals, LLC, out in the Kapolei area, Campbell Industrial Park. We've been operating out in Campbell in the area for 35 years.
Wow. Welcome, Alan. And Nick, may I please have you introduce yourself? Nick, go all the way back to, what you did right out of college and where you are today.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it. But my name is Nick Wong. I am the owner of Beer Lab Hawaii, beer brewery located in University, Pro Ridge, and YPO. But I guess a fun fact before all of this, I was lucky enough to work at Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard as a nuclear engineer. Made my way over to beer. Found out it a little more fun to be drinking beer and making it rather than just doing some engineering. So been in business now for about 7 years and still enjoying every minute of it.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with me here on ThinkTech Hawaii. Today, we're talking about Lenox Metals and learning more about the whole recycling industry. So, Alan, please share with us, who is Lenox Metals?
Well, this business was a startup back in 1988. I had worked for one of the utilities in town for a number of years. 13 years actually, and I resigned and did a startup of Lenox Metals in 1988, and it is a multi-discipline business, commercial, industrially of scrap metal that we throughout the years have learned how to deliver a range of services, including collection, transportation, recycling and processing of heavy and light commercial metals. That includes everything that is steel related or non-steel products like copper, brass, aluminum, cable, things of that nature. And today we're a fast moving company with lots of projects coming back to us from post-COVID era. Hopefully all that behind us. And we're quite busy these days with a number of projects. Look forward to our future.
Thank you, Alan. Yes, I've been out to Alan's site out there in Kapolei on the island of Oahu, and it is super fascinating. And I think it's because I'm kind of that way, Alan, that whole recycling. I am just like kind of extreme, I guess, when it comes to recycling. That's what my husband tells me, but it's so important to keep our aina clean that people responsibly recycle. So, Alan, explain a little bit about the Scrap for Cash program.
Well, Scrap for Cash actually started with me when I was at a young age of 12 years old, learning how to sort scrap metal in an uncle's yard that I worked for. I did it for summer work, and I learned all about the identification of metals. And that would include anything and everything, probably 100 different commodities. So anything that we are involved in commercially or industrially generates these kinds of metals. So whether it's restaurants, building demolition, the actual commodities that fall under the utility trade, anything off a telephone pole that I say. uh, which includes wire, cable, hardware, transformers, things of that nature, are collected and transported out to our company for processing each day. The
Oh,
Yeah.
Alan. Sorry, Alan. But sorry,
not,
continue, Alan.
yeah, I mean, scrap for cash is basically that was all born out of your trash is my cash. So, but in this case, the cash falls into the hands of the generators. And so we're happy to design and customize programs for all of them.
Hey, that's awesome, dear. Sorry, I got a little excited because I'm actually in the process of building one of my new restaurants. And
Uh,
when we're renovating, what actual materials can you give me some ideas on what we can actually recycle for you guys?
well, coming out of a kitchen construct, you find anything from stainless steel to hardware, copper, brass, aluminum, fittings, if you will, aluminum that is also involved in the construct of kitchens, but primarily the leader in metal coming out of a kitchen, so to speak, is stainless steel. Grades of 304, 316 in the alloy count. So that's the type of thing we know we'll acquire in a cleanup, renovation, or demo of a kitchen per se.
Nice, Alan. So Nick, here you just mentioned you are building another building. Nick has a few of the beer labs. I've been to the university, the Pro Ridge, and I have not driven out to the YPO yet. But Nick also has another location coming up. So Nick, what do you suggest to restaurant owners or building people who are building new buildings or renovating? What are some of the suggestions you have to these restaurateurs and building owners?
I mean, now that I heard kind of Alan's ideas on what he's able to recycle, really, a lot of times we walk into these kitchens and these restaurant areas, and a lot of the equipment, a lot of the countertops are really just left for us there. And most of the time we're paying somebody to come load them up and dispose of them. But really now that I'm learning about what Alan is able to take and actually get us some cash for, it really starts to get my mind moving a little bit more about how we should be demoing our projects instead of just coming in with a sledgehammer. We should really be picking apart, these different types of metals. There's copper piping throughout our entire kitchens and breweries, a lot of stainless steel countertops, and yeah, really being able to separate those things and yeah, really to try to recapture a little bit of that cash.
Yeah, if I could, Nick, I would tell you that as part and parcel to our service is to do surveys for folks that would like us to come out and look at the locations to point out those various metals and values, if you will, of what's going to be demoed or torn out or reconditioned or repurposed. And I will, or someone else will for our company, come out survey that for free.
Very nice, Alan. So why don't you share with us then, when Lenox is brought to the project, what are some of the things that you look for? Give us some ideas and the process of not only, explaining to people what you are interested in taking, but that whole process of removing it and taking it back to your site, then that Scrap for Cash program.
Yeah, so we make suggestions at our survey for certain things to look for. That would be lifting equipment, processing equipment. Are there forklifts on site that can do any lifting? If not, we may have to rent a forklift and bring it in and help the generator out at the location. Or for that matter, more mobile equipment that we have in the yard. Those have gone out to many locations. So we are looking for the most expeditious way to collect, load, and transport from a location for speed, that is, and because most projects we run into run into project deadlines. There's typically a guideline for time to moving in and out. So we pay attention to that aspect of the property as well. So it really depends on the property we go to, but we're there to identify opportunities, explain where the value is in the metal, and how to move it and collect it and transport it out as quickly as possible for processing to our facility.
Nice, Alan. Nick, do you have any questions for Alan before I go on?
I mean, the big one that just comes to my mind is regarding LEED certification. Of course, we always start trying to get our building certified, and we're just wondering if Lenox Materials can actually help us with that.
Yeah, we've been involved in LEED's programs and projects that are appropriate to the location. We have tracked and monitored materials as it comes in, because the generator needs to turn that data and information in to, for LEED certification points. And of course, those points actually find their way back to designers, architects that, improve, let's say, the certification process. And that would be where you're actually tracking and monitoring LEED's information will eventually influence your delivery in the next project, your ability to get more work. And they would prefer to deal with someone who is pursuing LEED's and LEED's points on an accrual basis in most cases.
Thank you, Alan. And regarding, like I mentioned earlier, I'm all about not putting more things in our landfills and really reducing the waste. Can you share with us a few of the big projects you worked on? Just because I like those really big projects, Alan, as Alan knows, that, I'm just amazed by how a demolition happens. I mean, gosh, big buildings come down and all that metal that's got to be recycled. So share with us some of the projects you worked on, especially the large ones, Alan. That's the ones that are most fascinating to me.
Absolutely. Well, those are, that brings back a lot of memory, surely. We all started back in the 80s with our first big project, which was the cleanup out in Ko'olave. And so when we worked with Parsons Engineering, was the engineering firm, the processor on site at the island. We actually won 2 of 3 of the awards to collect metal fragments, and scrap metal that was processed from that particular island. And that went on for nearly a couple of years. That was our first introduction to a very, very large type of project. Some of the other project includes the tower, the first Hawaiian building tower downtown years ago that was imploded. First and ever implosion in the city and county of Honolulu. Shut the lights and power off for a little bit, but we collected and did most, if not all, the plumbing poles and electrical poles from that high rise, and that was 35 floors of high rise. We made all the poles from that building before it was imploded. And of course, LEED certification wasn't around in those years, but that is something that we track for that particular project. Nearly 1 million pounds of cable, non-ferrous materials came out of that building alone. So if you calculate exponentially for a building that's 35 stories, that's the possibility. Other large projects that we were involved in was the demolition and collection of the International Marketplace several years ago, when that was demolished downtown in Waikiki. The rules of Waikiki are to work at night, never disturbing any of the hotels, any of the patrons, and doing it, somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 3 o'clock in the morning. So our trucks could be tracked going in and out of that property for nearly 6 months. And we worked with a very large demolition contractor out of New York City who did that work. Other large projects that we've done include periodic projects for rail. We've done a lot of cleanups for rail as it was initially built, going back a few years ago. And we continue to get work for rail projects that are starting up with continued construction. Along with that, our utility companies and government agencies alone have produced very large projects. One in particular was the clean out under the water of the Beckoning Point, of all the cable that was being removed prior to the building of the new sub base out in Waipahu and the EVA plane there. And that went on for nearly a year, producing about 1 million pounds of cable, all undersea cable that was brought up by the Navy. We assisted in collection, transportation, and processing of all that cable. Oh gosh, I could go on. There are many projects that that have come and gone since then, but those are the ones where there were tremendous highlights because they're all first-time projects. So we've become used to doing very large projects. The most recent we did was the project for Howard Hughes down on their block, down at the Ward block. So we worked with a demolition contractor who had the projects to clean out the entire block on both sides of the street, where the Sports Authority location was taken down. And we did that. That just ended months ago.
Wow.
And that also a LEEDS certification project that's at the Sports Authority location. So we collected, transported, processed. It was several thousand tons of steel that was collected over, probably 4 to 5 months. And that was completed just months ago.
Wow. Wow, Alan. All those projects I'm so familiar with, and it's just fascinating to me. So, Nick, do you have any questions for Alan before I move on?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, Alan, I guess great to hear about these, such large project that you guys were able to undertake. And, us coming from a little bit of a smaller, I guess, restaurant background, is there a size limit? You guys, we're not so big, but we still would like to recycle our materials with you guys. Is there a limit that you guys are looking for us to hit?
We're really no limit, Nick. I think, we worked on a small a project recently down at the Halekulani and because we worked with them about 10 years ago on a very big project, they were also, part and parcel to working with the GC on that project, which was Hawaiian dredging. And from 10 years back, we moved forward. Once a client, always a client. So in that case, we reconciled and helped them on a tear out of 2 small kitchens down in their kitchen areas in older parts of the hotel. So really, the size doesn't matter as much as what we're handling and the type of work that we can get to do that in the spirit of the relationship. And it is about relationships. So we consider that and others that we get all part of our relationship building at Lenox.
Very nice, Alan. And I want to mention also to our members that it's not only Oahu centric. Alan has worked on all islands, right, Alan?
Yeah, we have. We're connected through in one case, through the entire utility base. We've worked with Hawaiian Electric, Maui Electric, Helco on the Big Island, KIUC, independently owned on Kauai, and a number of commercial contractors that we've connected with and done projects We're doing a project right now with Dorvin Lees, collecting. They're a large commercial contractor in Maui and here on Oahu, and they are collecting some chiller type equipment that we're expert in handling and processing as well. So that is just some of the neighbor island work, but there are a lot of independent contractors that we're connected to and connected with, as well as doing the staging, storing, and collection for various projects that require it out in the neighbor islands.
Very nice. And as you mentioned, the chiller. So let me just verify and correct me if I'm wrong. So if there's any restaurant, bars such as Nick, business that has aluminum, brass, copper, steel, and light iron. Did I miss anything, Alan?
You missed the leader, which is stainless, typically coming out of the kitchenware, the kitchen equipment. It's all stainless steel. So that's probably the leader in a collection project coming from a small to large kitchen, and anything considered in the kitchen areas.
Very nice, very nice. So, Nick, any other questions before I move on?
No, I think that about covers it. Yeah, oh, actually, I'm so sorry, Alan. I do have one more. For us being a smaller operation for a kitchen, is there like if we had to save like a number one item that you find in a kitchen, well, what would that be?
I still go back to the commodities falling under stainless steel. That's the typical commodity found when tearing out a kitchen. I gained a real appreciation for the 10 years ago when we did the retrofit of the kitchen at the Halekulani that dredging did in about 24 hours. We actually watched at night, watching one kitchen taken out entirely, if you can imagine how big their kitchen is, and being retrofitted in 24 hours. So, but that is of a large quantity. But in the smaller quantities, I would look at, again, stainless being the leader, metal, and then anything that falls behind that, which is electrical or plumbing, brass, copper connections, brass fittings. And today, with copper at the level of pricing it is on the commodity exchange, is about $4 a pound. So anything that's scrapped, that's pulled out, falls under levels of $4 and less, probably down into the $3 a pound area. So you get into some pretty strong values when you're collecting copper and brass.
Very nice. So, Nick, do you have any other questions for Alan before I close out the show?
No, I think Alan just about covered it. We now at least we know we have a great option on what to do and how to recycle, and yeah, again, try to get a little bit of cash for scrap.
Nice. And Alan, before we close this show, this is your opportunity. I actually have a couple of more questions, but we've got to close down the show. I still don't know what is ferrous and non-ferrous base metals, but that's for the next show, right, Alan?
Anytime you want to meet for lunch on me, I will go over that with you.
But
it's
Alan,
very easy. You'll get it.
And Alan and I talk about silly things, like we talked about the dry dock project over at Pearl Harbor. I mean, I'm just fascinated by those kind of large projects, right, Alan?
That was the other one I didn't mention. We finished one down at one of the military docks down at Matson in the past 6 months. That we were literally on that project for 6 to 8 months worth of work. They were pulling pile drives 60 feet long, all steel, out of the water for about 6 months. And we were providing collection, transportation, and processing of all that material. That was a Kiewit project. And so we're at one of our bigger clients as well.
Amazing, Alan. So, Alan, before we close the show, is there anything else before I close out?
No, none other than staying in communication with us. We have more marketing materials coming out. I've just finished a major page in Green Magazine that will come out soon, and we'll be distributing that. I'll make sure you get copies of that magazine and other projects we're working on. My intention is to keep in touch with everyone, either through this media and others.
Thank you, Alan. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. As I mentioned, we need to recycle. We need to keep things out of our landfill, and it's just the right thing to do. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. And again, my name is Sheryl Matsuoka, the Executive Director of the Hawai'i Restaurant Association and the Hawai'i Restaurant Association Educational Foundation. The Hawai'i Restaurant Association is the organization unifying, representing, and supporting Hawaii's restaurant and food service industry. See you all again in the next show.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.